to hide these. Okay. So today's session is going to be on building your brand. We're going to really focus on upping our LinkedIn game. We're going to be focusing on cover letter and resume construction. And then we're also going to be utilizing the power of networking, something that I really want everyone to do. After this session, I really would love for each of you to schedule a one-on-one meeting with me, and I'll go through all of your socials like that. We'll go through your cover letters, your resumes, really make them into a global health centric piece so that it can help build your brand in those ways. So kicking us off, today's agenda, we're going to look at what is a personal brand and why we need to build that personal brand. We'll also be looking at LinkedIn. Then we'll be going through some of the job searching techniques. We'll be going through cover letters. Then we'll be going into the networking, and then I'll open it up for a Q&A. So I really want us to look at strategy right now. So strategy is, let me just minimize this so y'all can see that as well. Strategy is not the consequence of planning, but the opposite. It's the starting point. So I really want throughout this session, you to be thinking about how can you strategize your next step? What is your next step in 10 years from now? What can you do now to better prepare yourself for that plan? So the personal brand. How do you develop this personal brand to fit within your larger identity? So that larger identity may be the identity of your future organization. It may be right now your identity here at Georgetown as a student. So first, you really need to look at who are you? So this is going to include your skills, your experiences, your passions, your values. It's going to be what makes you unique and kind of sets you apart from another Masters of Science in Global Health student. What makes you you? And then look at what you're known for. So what have others perceived you as? This is going to be your reputation. It's going to be built through your actions, your communication skills, as well as your achievements. And then lastly, you're going to look at what do you stand for. So what you stand for is going to be your beliefs, your mission, the impact that you want to make on your future career, kind of your goals, what's motivating you behind what you're doing right now. So building that strong personal brand. Remember, this brand is an ongoing journey. So it's never finished. You're going to keep evolving. You're going to want to keep developing. You're going to want to experience new things. A lot of the stuff that I'm going to talk about today, it's going to make you a little uncomfy, especially when it comes to networking. There are so many meetings that I go into and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so awkward. And that's okay. You're supposed to feel that way. But the key is to be authentic, stay true to yourself, and then consistently communicate your values to the world. So building a strong personal brand, you're going to want to stand out from the crowd. We've already talked about that. That's going to be what's going to kind of set you apart from the other students in your cohort, from the other people that are going to go out into the career field with you. You're going to want to build trust and credibility. How do you do that? You're going to do that by establishing yourself as an expert in the field. You're going to want to constantly keep learning, but also being that leader. Attracting new opportunities. New opportunities are also going to make you a little bit uncomfortable, but it's experiencing new things. It's making yourself visible to potential employers, clients, and collaborators. We're going to see that a lot with the LinkedIn building that we're going to be doing. Next, building those stronger relationships. That's where I'm going to really start talking about networking. But you want to connect with people who share your values and your interests, but it's also a way for you to keep networking. So you find someone that you're very interested in meeting with, you meet with them and you ask, hey, you have any friends in the field? Is there someone else that maybe you can connect me with that has similar interests to me? You already know what I'm about, what my values are, what my mission is. How can you help further me? And how can you help further them? And then making a positive impact. So this is advocating for that brand of yours. Advocating for the causes that you are interested in. and being there every step of the way so people know I'm looking for an expert in global health. I'm looking for someone who specifically is very interested in medicine, has a passion for maternal and reproductive health. Oh, I know just the person, right? They're able to see that within you because you've created this brand that also has a positive impact. You've done work in the field, right? So LinkedIn profiles, let's get into the thick of it. So the first thing I want to talk about is headshots, the importance of a headshot. That's going to be someone's first impression of you. When you are looking through LinkedIn, think about what you're looking at. You're looking at most likely someone's title, you're looking at their headshot, you're looking at maybe their description at the beginning. So the headshot is often that first thing that someone's going to look at. It's crucial to have a professional and approachable image. That's something that a lot of people don't talk about. Have you ever seen someone really sterile in their professional headshot where they look a little scary? I had someone tell me that my first headshot was super scary. And I was like, ooh, it was the eyebrows. The eyebrows just scare people off instantly. So really think about that. Think about how you can make yourself a little bit more approachable. We are going to be having a headshot session this spring, ideally when the weather gets a little bit nicer. And I really want to do it in front of like the cherry blossoms and stuff. So stay tuned for that. The thing about these headshots is you want to have all of the appropriateness. You guys know how to be professional. So the professional attire, but you also want it to have good lighting. You want your headshot to have high resolution. You don't want it to just be like a photo that someone took in like your basement when you were like 12. Like we want to kind of move away from that. So I am going to be offering those better headshot services to you guys for free. So I highly recommend taking advantage of that when that time comes. I'll stay in contact with everyone. So next is looking at the headline. So that headline on someone's profile, again, it's something that you guys are looking at. So craft a story through that headline. You want this LinkedIn headline to just capture someone. So I am super interested in youth engagements as well as ethics. So that's on my headline. Another thing you can always do is write that you are a aspiring global health professional. You can write things like that maybe it's kind of your future. It's what you're seeing next. Aspiring physician ethicist, aspiring physician. You can look at things like global health student. That's a good one. One thing that I want you guys to keep in mind, you can only be a candidate if you are in a terminal degree. So you are not master's candidates. So just please, I don't want to see that on anyone's LinkedIn. Please don't give me a heart attack. But make sure that during this write-up, you are writing something that you think will captivate your audience and pull them in. It's also great to start using hashtags. We'll look through the hashtags in just a minute, specifically global health hashtags that you guys should be using. Another thing that I want to talk about is LinkedIn bios. So the bio is super important, and having someone look and see what you've done, what you're doing, and what you will do. I really like my bio in third person. That's more of a preference. You can do it how you feel fit. I really recommend sending your bio through an AI system. This is something that I've used as a tool rather than kind of AI kind of has a negative connotation, especially in academia. You can use AI to help outline your resume. You can use AI to help outline your cover letters. You can use AI to help outline your bios. Please do not copy and paste. That's not what I'm telling anyone to do, but use it as a tool to your advantage. In this bio too, I want to highlight that you should be explaining and showcasing your unique values and your future career aspirations. So just make sure you're showing, because you guys are still young. You're still younger in your career, a lot of you. So you need to show what's next. What can a future employer see that you're interested in doing? And then also make sure you're showing examples. Don't just say, I'm passionate about global health. Every global health professional is going to be passionate about global health. You need to show how your passions are being fulfilled through your experiences, through being in this program. What have you done? What studies have you done? What classes have you taken? Where have you excelled that you can really highlight? So Now moving into the next section, we are going to be optimizing professional experience. So this is going to be your skills. What skills do you have to really show people that you are an organized individual? How can you show that rather than telling? Anyone can write that they're organized, that they're a leader, that they are a really charismatic person. Show it. Give examples from previous employees or employers. Make it quantifiable, and you need to do this in your resume and CV as well, and or CV. So make sure that everything is quantifiable in some instance. So for example, I worked on a youth public health campaign. Great. What did I do on that campaign? I worked on a youth public health campaign where I led over 600 students across the state of Virginia to anti-tobacco reform and legislation. That's something that I am able to show quantifiable. What did I do? And then I'll be able to elaborate more on that once I receive an interview into that position. So I highly recommend also tailoring all of your experiences to what you're looking for. Let's say each of you are getting ready to apply to medical school. For medical school, you're going to want to show your clinical experiences. So make sure that those clinical experiences are highlighted somewhere on your LinkedIn, on your CV. Make sure that you are showing some of the key qualities for your top medical school choice, especially in your CV. On LinkedIn, it's going to be a little bit more generalized because there's going to be a lot of people coming in and out. But for that specific medical school, let's say they're super interested in your global health side of things. Make sure you're highlighting that. That should be at the forefront. When it comes to different job descriptions, if you see a job description and they are looking for someone that is willing to coordinate field research, and what would be the prime example for you guys? That you were in a field research module, that you helped with coordinating different projects in the field. So really highlight all of those experiences that you have. You're never going to 100% fit a job description to a T, but just make yourself the most standout candidate for that job or that medical school application. So looking next, we are going to be looking at the power of activity on LinkedIn. So you guys may see I am a heavy poster on LinkedIn, especially recently, because I've been trying to promote our programs. When it comes to promoting programs and different activities that you're doing on LinkedIn, there is a strategy behind it. You're going to want to engage as much as you can, and especially have other people engaging with your profile, because then it sends them your profile into other people's feed. Think about every time that you've seen a job opportunity or someone shared a publication and they celebrated that publication. That publication then showed up on your network. How did you see that? Because there's an algorithm behind that. The more you post, the more likely you are to be at the top of someone's feed, whether that be a potential job employer, whether that be an recruiter from NIH. Anyone can see your profile at that point. So engaging and being seen on LinkedIn is super important. So regular activity will make you stay visible and relevant. Sharing industry insights, as well as engaging in different discussions or people's original post, that will also keep you relevant. And then when all of these groups are seeing you all at once, that's going to make a big impact on someone else seeing you, another organization coming in. And then I highly recommend also just being strategic about what hashtags you're using, which we will go to next. So here's some general. On the left side, you can see some of the general global health hashtags that you can use. You can look at different jobs, you can look at different development organizations, philanthropy, all of that good stuff, health equity. You can also make it a little bit more specific to your interest. So global health policy, let's say you're talking about a paper that you recently co-authored, and it's talking a lot about policy, it's talking a lot about global health education in academia. Tag all of the pertinent people. So let's say you did this at Georgetown. So Enjoyed studying at Georgetown. Make sure you're tagging Georgetown. Working with these 3 people, make sure you're tagging them. The more people you're tagging, the more people that have that access to that engagement, the algorithm is going to draw onto their profiles. From there, you're going to get more engagements, more impressions. And then from there, hopefully more people will be viewing your profile. And that's the way that you're going to start doing that networking. I'm not saying this is the only way to network, but using a free tool like LinkedIn is one of the easiest ways to network, in my opinion. And also, I will be providing all of these slides to you at the end, so you'll have access to all these hashtags. So now let's go ahead and start looking at the power of networking. I will say it once, I will say it 10 times. Please network. I'm going to give you homework after this, and a lot of it is going to be involving networking. So networking is not just about connecting with people. It's all about connecting with people, with people's ideas, as well as people with opportunities. So some of the best ways that you can network, you can attend events. You can attend events in person or virtually. I highly recommend doing this as much as you possibly can, even if you can only be there for 15, 20 minutes, just do it. It's going to make a big difference because you find someone that maybe you're interested in talking to in the future. You can say, I attended your webinar at Georgetown. It was amazing. I would love to meet with you in the future. You can send that email then, and at least you had that connection with them. Meeting in person, in my opinion, is a lot easier because you can shake someone's hand. You can kind of get a vibe check versus when you're virtual, it's a little awkward at times. I'm going to be real. Every time I meet with someone virtually, I'm sweating, I'm scared, I'm rambling. It's not cute. But when I am in person with someone and I'm able to have that connection with them, makes all of a difference. And being here in DC, you have those opportunities. Using current networks. So what I like to do is I think about, okay, I really want to get a job at USAID. Who do I know in my network that has worked at USAID or might have connections there? And strategically think about it. You can go on LinkedIn, you can see that. You can think about, I remember someone had a conversation like that. Maybe I should follow up with them. That way, when you have that internal connection to someone else where you're trying to go, it's a lot easier for them to say, oh, I'll introduce you. Once you have that introduction, it's so much easier to schedule that meeting. It's so much easier to have that one-on-one connection with them. Asking people to connect you with more people makes life a whole lot easier. Cold emailing. You can always cold email. Please feel free to cold email. That's going to also be part of your homework. I'm going to ask you to email at least 1 to 2 people each week, just to connect you with different organizations. The other day, I ended up cold emailing someone from Harvard because I was interested in one of the studies they were doing. They ended up connecting me with 5 other people. Those 5 other people ended up connecting me with 5 more other people. So now this whole web is going through. I ended up getting the coolest opportunity because of that web. And it was all because of a cold email. So, and yeah, it's uncomfy. It's also weird when someone doesn't respond to you ever. And you're like, I love being ghosted. I hate being ghosted. So just make sure you are aware that this is going to be an uncomfortable process. It's not meant to be easy, but this is how you are going to get in front of a network of people. This is how you're going to start building those connections. Anyone can just sit back and wait for these to come to you, but the people that are at the top, they have done this and they are not afraid to, and they will continuously tell you, form more connections, find a mentor, find someone that will make you an approachable person. Find those people that will be willing to help you. Okay. So mastering your job search with the powerful cover letter and resume. So this is hard. Writing a cover letter for 10,000 jobs is annoying. And I cannot stand the systems where they make you individually input each of your jobs. It's awful. It really is. It's something that you have to do though. What you can do though, is make sure that you are tailoring your resume and your cover letter to that job description. Okay. So I'm going to go through the list and then I'm going to talk about some tips and tricks. So first impressions matter. So making sure that you are impressing a potential employee with your cover letter and your resume. So that means making sure that it's clean, aesthetically pleasing. If you are putting a header on your cover letter, make sure that header is the same that's on your resume. Make sure they look similar, aesthetically pleasing. You do not need a headshot on either your cover letter or your resume. Please don't do that. And please don't make it colorful and like all of that. For global health, we're not doing that. Maybe if you were like a content creator and doing something like that, these should be very clean, very easy to read. Content is going to be key, okay? Content. You need to make it relevant to your skills, to the job you're applying to, even if it's a reach. You know, those jobs that you're applying to that you're like, I don't know if I'm quite qualified, but I have the master's degree and it looks like a really cool position. It pays well. Make sure that you are utilizing all aspects of that. I'm going to use an example of myself. I was a cognitive neuroscience major in college. I've not done any neuroscience since. None. Absolutely none. I applied to a job that was a neuroscience position, like heavy neuroscience. I told them all about my coursework. They got to hear about all 5 of the neuroscience classes I took. I didn't tell them it was 5, but I told them about how I was working with brain systems and I was really learning how to read peer-reviewed literature. And I was going into that. I ended up getting the job because I showed them exactly my interest there. I also showed them it was a coordinator, manager type position. So it was admin heavy. They just wanted someone that had a little bit of background in neuroscience. But for some reason, the job description was pushing all towards the neuroscience side of things. So I read the room. I said, okay, this job description really wants me to show off that neuroscience background. So I need to do that, but I also know that I have the skills, the relevant skills and experience to show them that I can do the admin side of things. And that's what makes a successful cover letter and resume, when you have both of those being paired together to point you in the right direction. So structuring too, making sure again that everything is easy to read, it's all relevant. You have it in order from your most recent to your least recent, making sure that you're including all of the relevant information. If you are, let's say you've been doing a lot of volunteering, so you have 10,000 different volunteer opportunities that you've listed. Pick the top 5 that are relevant. Your resume does not need to be 50 pages long. Max, it should be 2. If it is more than 2, you got to scrap some things. Ideally, it's going to be 1 page, but I am realistic that sometimes fitting everything on 1 page is hard. Make sure your action verbs are shining, okay? So paint a picture of your accomplishments using strong action verbs that showcase your abilities. Saying that, again, that you're organized or you're passionate. Okay, yeah, we get it, but make sure you're showing why you're organized. What have you organized before? What have you managed? That's a big one that I see a lot too. Managing multiple projects. Great. What projects are you managing? How have you managed them? What management have you done in those projects? Who are you supervising? What projects are you overseeing? Explain that to us. Proofreading, the amount of resumes that come in that are not proofread, not cleaned up. Make sure you just have someone go through that. Going back to the AI thing, you can use AI to look over your resumes. There are specific AI tools. I use something called resume.io. I've shown it to a couple of y'all. This is going to be a great tool. It does end up costing money after you've submitted a couple of resumes. I've gotten away with just like screenshotting it at the end. I ended up paying $25 for it one day. So I have it for a month and I just sent out 1 billion resumes. It's fine. So if you are interested in doing something like that, you can probably also find a free resume tool. But AI is going to be your friend in these instances just to clean up some of your action verbs. Also help construct a cover letter. I have used AI to help me construct the outline of a cover letter. It works out really well. Again, though, you need to go through it to make sure that it's your own work and not just something you copy and pasted from the internet. But what it'll do is it'll take the job description and it'll also take your resume and then make it fit to whatever that position is. And then I highly recommend going through and making those edits and cleaning it up. Formatting, make sure that you're using a format that you can use universally. I like changing all of my documents to PDFs. So then that way it's not going to import or export awkwardly, because the worst is when someone gets your, I got an application the other day where they never took off the tracks changes. So I had all of this red and green and stuff on an application. I was like, they would have just uploaded it as a PDF. It would have looked a lot cleaner. And then make sure you're telling a story. So I always like to start my cover letter with a slight story or something that's really just going to capture the eye of someone. So I always talk about an experience that I had in a clinical setting, even if I'm not applying for a clinical job, because then I go into talking about my admin experience or my project management experience. So I like to talk about that hospital experience because it's very compelling. I talk about a kid named Oliver, who I worked with in the hospital, who was essentially in hospice care. So it's a really drawing story that people want to keep listening to. And then I go into all of the work that I've done. And then I end with talking about Oliver again and how his life has inspired me to continue on this path forward and why I am qualified for this specific position. It does resonate a lot more with your reader. And then authenticity. Make sure you're staying authentic and true to yourself. You do not want to become this completely different persona. Definitely targeting yourself to that position that you're applying to, but don't just completely start making stuff up. I don't expect any of y'all to do that. But if you feel like you're getting a little bit too in the weeds, I would jump ship at that point. And then practicing is going to make perfect. You're going to mess up a couple times. There have been so many times when I've submitted something and I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot to make that edit. I accidentally included the wrong job title. Like, what happened? Give yourself a little bit of grace there, because we all make those mistakes. It was a genuine mistake. We are humans. Even though we have a lot of AI stuff in the world, we're all humans and it's going to happen. So most important though, I would say, is don't send a generic resume or cover letter around. That is not going to get you a position. Maybe it'll get you an interview, but it's not going to make you that standout candidate. So I highly recommend tailoring everything that you're doing to fit that specific position. It does take more time, and that's why you don't see as many people doing it, but it's going to make a big difference. Now, I also want to talk about internal connections. So if you're applying for a position, if you're applying for medical school, if you're applying for a PhD program, whatever you are doing, if you have those internal connections, that is worth its weight in gold. Putting the time and effort into making those connections is going to make a vast difference. The amount of people that have given me internal recommendations for a person or a thing within the organization has always gone way further than me just submitting something. So I'm saying that in, let's say you are interested in working at a big company like Google. You know, one of your sister's cousin's best friend works in this department area at Google. Try to make that connection. Try to see by setting up that meeting, by asking, hey, do you think Sarah Smith will meet with me? Asking to get that connection. And then in that meeting, ask Sarah Smith, like, hey, what's this job like? What have you done here? Asking those kind of personal questions so that they can give you their perspective. And then at the end say, I'm planning on applying to this job. You can also start with that, but doing it at the end, you're then able to say, do you know anyone in this specific department? Or do you have any connections there where maybe you might be able to set me up a meeting, give me some recommendations for applying to that? That's going to be such a useful tip when you are applying to things. Same goes for graduate schools. If you can get to know the people that are in that school or in that department, it's going to make a big difference on your applications. Because when someone in the admissions team is reviewing and they say, oh yeah, I met with so-and-so, they're a great student, they were really interesting, it's going to go a long way. So next, we are looking at this call to action. So I'm going to provide you guys with a checklist for cover letters and resumes, making sure that you're including that. I will have a Google Drive folder that will include sample emails for you to send to reach out to cold email. You can, of course, edit it as needed. I also would love for you guys to set up mock interviews and prep sessions with me. I want to help tailor everything that you guys have to your job, organization, whatever you're thinking about doing next. Using AI as a tool, I highly recommend using AI for the right reasons, making sure that we're conscious that it's ethical use of AI. And then I also highly recommend utilizing the Career Center here at Georgetown. They do have really good tips and tricks. You can schedule a one-on-one meeting with them. I will tell you, I always have students around end of March, early April, who try to set up a meeting with the Career Center, and the Career Center is like, we are completely booked. We do not have time to meet with you. So do it now, so that way you can at least get a meeting. There are some really awesome people there. They are just really busy. So now looking at homework, I would love for everyone to have a revamped LinkedIn. It's going to be a continuous work of art. This is not going to be something that you're going to do tonight and it's going to be done. Keep working on it. I change my bio quite frequently. I change some of the hashtags that I'm using. I always try to change my photos, all of that stuff. So just start working on it, get a good baseline, and make sure when you're going through it, you're like, yeah, when I'm reading this, I'm inspired. I'm impressed by the work that they're doing. Now, the next one, this is going to be a little uncomfy. Find and connect with 1 to 2 people new each week. Try to find people around Georgetown. That's a great thing that you can do. It's easy to connect with faculty around here because you already have access to most of their emails. Ask your professors if they have any friends at the place that you're applying, that you're doing, organization that you're planning on going to. This will help keep a spreadsheet of who you've contacted and make sure you're writing notes on, okay, I talked to them about this, they connected me to so-and-so. So then that way you can go back into your archives 2 years down the line when you're applying somewhere, and you're like, I spoke with so-and-so. She knows this person. I got to make that connection. You can stalk people on LinkedIn to see where they've been, what they've done, who they're connected with. That's such an easy way to see people's connections. Internships and job search. Please, please, please start early. Every time people wait until they've graduated or the month before they're graduating, and then they come to me and they're like, I don't have a job yet. No, you need to start now. If you are going abroad in the summer, start now. If you were going abroad in the fall, you can start a little bit later, but just keeping it in mind, making sure that you're starting to save the job search. Also knowing what you want to look for. Find jobs now that fit the description of what you see your future being. And in that way, you can kind of keep that archived. Like, I know I really like the admin program coordinator side of things. So I always like to keep, okay, I'm very interested in that side of things. What other job descriptions fit that title? What other titles are there that I could be using? Because at Georgetown, we always use program coordinator, program manager, but at USAID, they might use program officer, or they might use a different terminology. So just making sure that you're aware of some of the nuances that different companies will be using. And then last but not least, make sure you're giving yourself grace during this. It's a daunting time, especially there will be times where you get rejections after rejections and you just feel so low. You're like, no one wants me. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. It's okay. There's a reason that maybe you didn't get an interview for that job. Maybe they had an internal candidate come in and they just had to post the job. I've seen that happen a lot. There have been times where I've absolutely nailed an interview. They don't bring me back for a second one. So just keep these things in mind, that it isn't always you. You did not do anything wrong in that instance. It's just how life plays out. Okay. So just again, give yourself grace and be kind to yourself in this process, because it's hard. So this was a little bit of a dumb slide, but I kind of wanted to keep it. Are you ready to go from a Master's of Science to an MVP, most valuable problem solver? So that is the end of my presentation, but I would like to open it up for a Q&A. So if anyone online would like to ask questions, please feel free to do so. And if anyone in here would also like to ask questions, more than happy to chat. So please feel free to utilize the Q&A section. I'm also going to unplug from the screen. And all of my Glow and Glid students, please, please, please set up one-on-one meetings with me. You can do so by using my Calendly link. It's going to be in my email signature. Kelly?
Hello, and thank you for doing this. I picked up some tips, so I appreciate that. I wanted to chime in on what you were saying about taking the energy to individualize the things you're reaching out. I do a lot of hiring, and it's immediately apparent to me when people are cutting and pasting their stuff. And I think there's something in LinkedIn where it's like, oh, connect with this employer, and I can't tell you how many people just use that template, and I was like, I have seen this 30 times. You are making no impression on me at all. So that bit about personalizing and using AI tools smartly makes a difference, because if anything, I was like, I am turned off by the fact that you are doing this first level generic reach out to me.
Yes, thanks for adding that, Kelly. And for the people in the room, like that does make such a big difference. Think about even when like an admissions team is emailing you. Think about like when you were getting emails like, congratulations. It makes such a difference when someone is emailing, hey, Cole, like we loved seeing your application. We could see that you are such a strong candidate because of XYZ experience. It really does impact you. And it's like, wow, I do really like this place. Like they know who I am. So just keep that in mind every step of the way. It will, again, there are little things that you can do, incorporating strategy into it, that will make a big impact. So if we do not have any other questions, please feel free to log off. Thank you all so much for coming. We really appreciate it. And I hope to see you all soon.
Well done. Thanks, Zoe. Have a good weekend.
You too.